Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me on my Facebook Live this morning, Thursday morning. It's Tuesday morning. Gosh, it seems like the week has already gone past us. I appreciate everybody joining me. Be sure to check out my LinkedIn. I cover a lot of content on my LinkedIn, and then once a day, every morning, I come and talk about just what impacts me most from the day before. And so, thank you if you're checking me out. Yesterday, I did my second podcast. Dave Savage was my guest. Dave did a great job. Thank you, Dave, for being on my podcast. We spoke about, obsessed with impact and how to get the most return on your investment when you attend a conference or a seminar, what's the best networking tips, all those kind of things. Check it out. It's about 45 minutes. It's on my YouTube channel. So give it a look. If you have comments, go ahead and share them with me. I'd love to hear your feedback. Everybody's been so good with their feedback and their encouragement. Keep sending it to me on both the Facebook Live, on my podcast, even on my LinkedIn, where I post about current events, 2 or 3 or 4 posts a day. Check it all out and give me your feedback. All right, here's what I want to talk about today. Our clients, referral partners, they're all demanding more. And, the entire, housing ecosystem is asking for more from their lending partners. And so what I want to do today, I want to encourage you in a great way to become better, to be better scripted, better with your words, better advisor, just to, ratchet things up a little bit, is to really commit to watching Mortgage Coach podcast with Dave Savage. And here's how this came about. I was talking to a loan officer a few months ago, and I was asking them, are you going to the Mastermind Summit? Because I wanted to network with them there. And they answered a really interesting thing, and it rang true, although I think you should go to conferences. What they said is, look, I get so much content from mortgage coaches, podcasts, that I already have more than I can implement, almost more than I can digest. So I can't imagine what I'd get by going to a conference. Now, I don't 100% agree with that sentiment, but it does ring true. If you were to watch all the podcasts that Mortgage Coach puts out, as well as other people, you would learn so much, and you could elevate your game if you implemented the best ideas. And so if you think about Mortgage Coach, Dave puts out Tuesday interviews with top producers, typically mortgage, real estate, occasionally industry leaders, but mostly top dogs. And I always learn a lot when I listen to the Tuesdays. And those every Tuesday at 9 o'clock, and he's done it for like 18 years or something like that. And then on Friday is Friday Masterminds, which is typically a mortgage executive, a leader, a branch manager, a regional manager, somebody like that who can not only speak to mortgages, but to leadership ideas. And so those are every Friday. And then if you go to YouTube and you go to the Mortgage Coach channel, which you should subscribe to, it's really easy to find stuff. They have a few categories. For example, if what you're trying to do is hone your skills around the NAR settlement, how to optimize the opportunity and how to be the most valuable you can be to both consumers and real estate agents, well, they have a whole playlist called Getting Ahead in the NAR settlement, where Dave has 15, 20 top end podcasts speaking directly to this. Might even be more. It might even be 30. And then, of course, they had the best of 2024, which of those podcasts either got the most views or had the most impact. He got the most comments on. And then there's another playlist for realtor strategies. There's a playlist for mortgage strategies. There's a playlist for the all-time best. And then there's how top producers use Mortgage Coach, and a loan officer playlist. So there's all sorts. So you go there, find Tuesday, find Friday Mastermind, find playlists that you're interested in, and listen. Now, what I do to try to keep up with just the voluminous content that Dave puts out is I listen to a podcast in the first half of my walk or hike every morning. So that's how I can get one done a day, which is awesome, right? And then and that's how I keep up. And then I'll give you some tips too on how to digest podcasts in a minute. But when you talk about, when you start talking to give you an idea of what these podcasts are, I'll just cover a few recent ones. If you look at the Tuesday interviews recently, the most recent one was How to Help Realtors Sell More Homes to First-Time Home Buyers in This Market with Mosey Gatling. She's been on Mortgage Coach twice. She was on last week. She is fantastic. She brings a different perspective. One of the perspectives she brings is like, she says words matter. For salespeople, words matter. And then how we talk to minorities, homeowners, home shoppers. We need to change our language. Our language is outdated. It goes back to 1976, I think, fair lending laws. And we're using bad keywords. Not bad like they're. It's not current. And things like when we talk about financial literacy. She would say that projects, that you're condescending to the home buyer because you're telling them they're dumb, they don't understand about homes, and so we got to change the words that aren't, subconsciously offensive, or that we don't accidentally offend someone. So that's what she talks in that podcast. It's great. Another recent podcast from the week before, Stop Selling Loans, Start Selling Net Worth, with Sean Herrera, Dan Keller, and Brian McCauley. This was awesome. The three of them were just crushing it on how to sell net worth, how to use TCAs, how to sell commissions, how to do above ask. They went through all these really challenging type of situations, and they gave you scripts that you could just take. And these are like an hour. And you got three of the best originators in the country telling you what they're winning with and giving you their script, giving you their actually TCA templates. It doesn't get better than that. And then the week before was Creating Confident Home Buyers during the NAR settlement change with James Allen. I hadn't seen James Allen before. That dude rocked it for the entire podcast. He just brought energy. He was awesome. Make sure you check that one out. The week before that was 7 Steps to Seven-Figure Mortgage Success with Cindy Ertman. That was fantastic. She came, not only has she been, she's a GOAT. She's probably one of the all-time top producing female loan officers in history, but she also has a coaching company, and she talked about what they coach on. These are the 7 things we're going to fix. These are the 7 pillars we're going to strengthen in you, and it was really insightful. And then probably one of my favorite ones was from the quite a few weeks ago was Sean Herrera, starting over with Sean Herrera. And he said, look, if you just transported me into the middle of a city I didn't live in and I needed to build my business, how would I do it? How could I build it as quickly as possible? And here's my strategies. Those were fantastic. So those are all Tuesday interviews. If you just go on and then listen to some of those and then get in the habit of listening to them, you're really going to elevate your game. Now, as you talk about the Friday interviews, I'll give you kind of a flavor of what happens on Friday. Last week was Brian Hale. As a matter of fact, I listened to that this morning on my walk. Brian, he's a monthly guest. He brings it every time, gives you tons of insights into the industry, what's happening. Of course, he participates in a lot of the M&A activity. He advises a lot of companies. He's been the sales leader of some of the biggest sales organizations. He's excited. He's rolling out a new product, a new subscription product for loan officers and branch managers. It's very inexpensive. Listen to the podcast. You'll learn about the product. I recommend you sign up for it. The week before that was How to Win Big with Realtors during the NAR settlement with Jeremy Forcier. Jeremy is a regular. I think he's been on Mortgage Coach over the years, I think it's 105 times now, or maybe 106 times. And he is absolutely bringing it. Part of the things about him bringing it, he is sharing his scripts there, and they are gold. He is sharing realtor scripts. He's sharing loan officer scripts, highly worth listening to. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna cover his podcast at the end of this, if you guys are still hanging on. So next on a Friday, on the Friday Mastermind, he did how the housing. Dave did a podcast with Mike Simonson from Altos Research. Of course, Mike, in my mind, is probably one of the best analysts that we can leverage. I fully believe and subscribe to Altos Research. But the title of the podcast was How the Housing Market is Shaping Up This Summer with Mike Simonson. That was great. And then before that, a week before that, he did a podcast with Clayton Collins from Housing Wire. And the topic was what's most important right now with Clayton Collins. And those are all great. They're just terrific. Whether you're a loan officer or whether you're a leader, they're well worth listening. So I would invite you, listen to for certain. Here's a priority: listen to Tuesdays. Just commit to listening to every Tuesday, right? And then if your second priority is listen Friday. So Tuesday, Friday, right? That's what you should listen to. But Tuesdays is number one. Friday is a close second, and maybe some of the stuff doesn't resonate if you're not a leader, but we're all leaders. But I highly recommend Tuesday and Friday. And then, to give you an idea of kind of like the best of all time. David's playlist, best of all time, just to give you a sense of the quality that Mortgage Coach and Dave put out. Some of the best of all time, their podcasts that caught my attention. These are some of the people he interviewed: Simon Sinek, Jock Wilnick, Phil Jones, Shayla Gifford, who's on quite a bit, Daniel Saw, who was, I had never heard of the guy before he came on Mortgage Coach, before Dave started promoting the guy, but that guy's a rock star straight out. If you wanted to build a exceptional platform with a concrete foundation, that Daniel Saw is a rock star. And then before that, on the best of all time, Mortgage Coach Scripts with Tim Brahim and Jeremy Forcier. Can you imagine that? You can get to a podcast, listen to the podcast, and get some of the best scripts from the best loan officers in the country. And you want to know something? All this stuff I just mentioned to you is free, like free, Free, free. The only thing it takes is your time, and your time could be while you're out exercising, or when you're driving to work, or when you're driving on a road trip, or you're traveling, or whatever. Get it in, right? You can get it in. Certainly, it's better than possibly watching TV. So try to give it a call. Now, I want to give you some tips here on podcasts. I told you I listen to podcasts while I'm out on a walk, right? And so I always listen to a Mortgage Coach first, my first hour, and then the next hour I listen when I'm going to walk or hike. Then I listen to Ed Mylett or one of the many other podcasts, a TED Talk or whatever it happens to be. My first hour is almost always Mortgage Coach. And when I'm walking, I don't have the chance to take notes, right? I'm just listening and I'm fully present because I'm walking. But what I do when I get back to my computer, I go to the Mortgage Coach channel and I download the transcripts. And here's what I use. I use GLASP, 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 to transcript videos, right? And it is a free plugin to Chrome. All you got to do is download it. It's a Chrome plugin. And it sits right next to the top left, right next to the video, and you hit transcript, and it gives you a full transcript of that podcast in about 10 seconds, right? So I always get the transcript. And then I cut and paste the transcript onto a Word document, and I highlight, the parts from, because I was listening, I go, oh yeah, this is what I want, this, and my action points from it. But another thing you can do, which I did today, because I was running a little late today, and I was trying to take a little shortcut, I uploaded the GLASP has a widget to auto upload into ChatGPT. And so you download the transcript into GLASP, you auto upload into one button into ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT will give you a summary of the podcast with the key points. Now, I recommend, as with all things with chat, create a formula for chat to follow with transcripts from GLASP, like exactly what format, how many words, bullet point, whatever the style is, 8th grade, whatever your directions are, give it directions. So then it spits out, an executive summary of that podcast. So if you really didn't have time, you could download the transcript, look at the cliff notes from ChatGPT, and then determine whether you want to read it or not, or listen to it or not. So that is a great tip for how to get the most out of a podcast, right? And then, by the way, you have a whole folder of the podcast. And here's the key thing about the transcripts. What I look for in the transcripts is I highlight the scripts, because I can just swipe and adapt, right? If Sean or Jeremy, if they're listing their best script, I got in the transcripts, I'm highlighting it. I now own that script. If I go back to all my transcripts and highlight all the scripts, I got a full book of scripts. I'm totally set, as will you be if you choose to go this route. So I'm going to give you an example of this. I'm going to quickly talk about Jeremy's recent podcast. It was a terrific podcast. It was about how to leverage an NAR settlement. And in the podcast, let me do something real quick. Sorry. In the podcast, we're running late, so I'll just touch on a couple of things. He's like, look, you have to be fully loaded to coach real estate agents on the opportunities coming from the NAR settlement. And then he said this really interesting thought. He said at the very beginning, even if they don't immediately act on the advice, like give the advice, and then it doesn't matter whether they take it or not. What matters is they saw you as an expert and as a source of solutions. Really interesting. Jeremy talks about the importance for a real estate agent to be seen as a local market expert and a trusted advisor who can help manage real estate assets and help create worth over time. So he gets with his agents and goes through scripts. on how they can achieve those things and being the market expert and how to help people create wealth over time. Another thing that Jeremy does when he goes out and talks to real estate agents, he really brings in the total cost analysis to explain to him how they're going to educate the clients. He walks through how to present different financial scenarios to clients, such as buy before sell, rent versus own options. He talks about the scripts about how educating buyers on how to pay for commissions. And so he goes through this and he uses the TCA. By the way, of course, he uses his scripts in that section, so you can get a copy of all of his scripts. He talks about the importance of proactive objection handling. He says, which is true, we always face the same objections. The best technique is to address them before they're asked. So if clients are going to be scared about who's going to pay the commission, address the commission issue first, or above asking price, or whatever happens to be. Jeremy then went on in the podcast to talk about practical strategies for relationship building. He actually shared some very simple, effective communication scripts. You can get those from the podcast. They're very easy to understand. They're great, right? And then intentionally reaching out. Here's what Jeremy talked about: his own production, and his production, like a lot of us, is kind of up and down. Now his is up, like whoop, but inside that, up and down. And so he had like a barren week followed by a week where he took $21 million in apps, I think is what he said. And so what he said, look, focus on the process, not the results right now. Just focus on the process, right? And then the next thing he said is, look, have a client for life mindset. You have to start looking at these relationships as long-term, and you have to commit to the borrower up front long-term, and then you have to show up long-term. I really appreciate that. And he ended up by saying, he said, focus on creating value, educating clients, and building long-term relationships. Mortgage coaches can turn these changes into significant opportunities for growth and success. That's Jeremy's podcast with Dave. I hope I got you interested. If just try the Tuesdays. Just commit to Tuesdays. It's an hour, right? And then I encourage you to go ahead and use Glass. I am not a technology guy. I was able to plug and play in 10 seconds. I mean, you guys know me. I am not a technology guy. It was super easy. Downloaded it, really easy. The button that says push for ChatGPT, super easy. Start doing that to help you with your notes. And then that's it. Enjoy podcasts. Thanks so much for listening in, and I will be back tomorrow. Have a great day. Thank you.